Hi, I'm Laurie Jones, and you are watching Musicians on the Record. Hit it!
This is huge, musicians on the record. Bring it on.
Hi, welcome to Musicians on the Record. I'm David Ward. You've heard the music, now hear their story. And I am so excited for an in-person interview today. We have the wonderful Laurie Jones with us. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks.
So glad to have you here.
Thank you.
You are a guitarist in Maine, but we want to hear all about your story. Let's start with, you just had a latest CD release of the Laurie Jones Band called Bridges.
Did.
Can you tell us about it?
I can. This is the first CD I've actually released in seven plus years. So pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Because I removed myself from the music business for a while. And so it's been a real celebration actually to put something out. So so it is a band project, so that's why it's called Laurie Jones Band. So super excited about it.
Yeah. And can you tell us about the music? Can you tell us about who's in the band?
Absolutely. So the reason I call this Laurie Jones Band is because it really was a collaboration of the whole band. And so my friend Doug Hoyt, who is he's a musician, but he's also an engineer. So you gotta have friends.
Yes.
You have to have friends,
That's
right?
right.
That can help
That's
you
right.
out.
Yeah.
And so he has a studio in South Portland.
Wow.
And so we got together and we started talking about me recording again and the vision that I had and what I thought was going to be, I will put it out there, a very melancholy record turned into something different.
Interesting.
So it's quite a rocker.
Yeah,
Which is good. But my longtime bandmate Aaron Trent Thibodeau, who spends his winters in the Florida Keys, he came back and we spent all of last summer recording this CD. And I think that one of the most important parts of the CD is I didn't really anticipate what we would do with it. I just knew that I had a collection of songs and I wanted to honor the songwriting process and do something with those songs after not being in the music business for so long. And the end result was just really more than we had expected.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do what we had been doing for years but had forgotten how to do.
Right.
And so we just went full force and we released the CD.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Quite an evolution, it sounds like, if it started from melancholy to a rocker.
Yeah.
How did that process happen?
Well,
in the studio or?
It did happen in the studio. I'm a songwriter first. And so I always go back to that. So much like us sitting here with this guitar, this is how the process happens. I write songs and it may seem like, they're folk songs. And so when I brought this collection to Doug, they were melancholy. They'd been through a lot.
Yeah.
Songs are like family and sure. We had been, through our own journey. And so I thought that's what it would be. But when you're honest, and you can just let your guards down in the studio, they come out. And so some of the songs ended up being, like, we call them rockers, but just being more emotional, more passionate than I had expected them. We brought in people locally. This is a Maine-made production,
Wonderful.
And so I wanted to stick to that. Yeah. Pip Walter's really well known in this area. He plays fiddle and mandolin. We brought him in. I also had a very talented cellist named Devin Kolela who came in and played. And wow, I just think we played the heck out of it in the end. And so we were really proud of what we did. And so at some point, when you're recording, you decide, where you're going to master it. And so we took it to Gateway.
With Bob Ludwig and Aaron.
With Adam.
Yes.
And so we had it mastered there. So full circle, Maine made. And then the wheels start turning. and here we are.
Wow.
You know, we're playing out again, and but most importantly, you know, we have a record that we're really proud of.
Yeah, amazing. And you know, the power of music and where it starts and sharing it and how other people hear it, you know, possibly started Melancholy, but when other people started hearing it, they heard it in a different way and helped you keep developing it and forming it. That's amazing to me that it's happened countless times.
It's perception sometimes
Yes.
too, and I think working through some of these songs in the studio, Doug, who, you know, co-produced it and engineered the project, he was listening to the lyrical content and saying, what are you, you know, did you really just say that? And so, yeah, they, you know, for lack of a better way to describe it, I think that the songs really revealed themselves.
Sure, right.
And so,
Yes.
so there you have it. And the fun part now is that we're out playing live and being able to, you know, play these songs that we worked so hard all summer, last summer.
Yes.
And here it is a year, and we get to play them.
Right.
So fun.
Yeah. Where can people see you play?
The next time we're playing actually in Campobello Island, New Brunswick. So it's a little bit of a trip, but I assure you, Fog Festival is absolutely worth it. So I'm doing a songwriter's circle with some other Canadian artists. And also doing a full band show there. And then next is Common Ground Fair. I love it.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about your process, your creative process with writing songs? What comes first? Lyrics, the music?
That's a good question. It's different every time. But what I can tell you is that I know when I'm going to write a song.
Okay.
It's almost like a craving or that I know that there's something I need to do, and I'm a little restless, and I have often said to people, like, I feel like I need to go write a song, like I can feel it. So it's different every time. Sometimes I'll just sit and play chords, and I may hear melodies, inflections, or there are times that I will think about phrases. I'm a big dreamer. Dreamer as in, I do dream big, but I'm a dreamer that I dream a lot, and I try to remember them. And so I used to keep cue cards and write things down,
great.
and then I could write from that, even just a phrase or something that's in my head, a line that's in my head. I just have to tell you this. So I saw an interview with Jack White. You know who that is?
Sure,
With,
of White Stripes.
With White Stripes. And I saw an interview with him, and he was talking about the songwriting process, and this really, it really resonated with me, and that's why I want to tell you this. And he was talking about how somebody had given him a project to work on, and so some backing tracks or some music, and somebody had given it to him and wanted him to write up some lyrics for that. And so he took this compilation or this works of music, and he put it in his car, and he would just listen. And then he said, and every once in a while you let God in the car. And it would happen. And so that's the only way I can really describe it to you, is that you let God in the room, because I don't think it just comes, because it does. Every time I write a song, when I'm done, I'm grateful. Because I don't know if it'll ever happen again. So I get pretty excited.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the dreaming part. I've heard so many artists talk about that. You know, Paul McCartney waking up and having music, and Keith Richards. And so, you know, Carl Jung called it the royal road to the subconscious, right?
I love that. And it is. And I have to say that it's always been like that for me for as long as
That's amazing.
Because music's been always in my life and has been a big part of my life, and I remember writing songs as a child.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can we go there a little bit, because we really love to get the musician's story here on the show. When did you start first playing music and fall in love with the guitar?
Well, I didn't start playing guitar until I was probably 10.
Okay.
But before that, I can't tell you exactly when it happened, but I just became obsessed with music. Lots of times you know, people ask how far back you can remember. Well, I can remember really far back. But one of my furthest memories is hearing Hello, Goodbye by the Beatles for the first time.
Yeah.
And I think I was 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I was at my grandmother's house, and it was playing on a little turntable. And you know, if you remember the song, and if anyone knows the song, there's so many harmonies and the tambourine. There's so many things happening, layering at the end of that song, and I just wanted to master it. I wanted to know every part.
Wow.
I wanted to sing every harmony, and that was it. I was hooked. I was fortunate enough that I had family members who, like, they embraced it, or it just became part of who I was, and so I was singing, and I was like the source of entertainment for my family for years.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they really supported it, though.
They did. They did support it. I don't know. I mean, I can't remember what it sounded like, but I'm guessing it sounded okay because they encouraged it.
They wanted to hear it more, as opposed to like, oh, please stop, right?
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes my brother, I have 3 siblings, and my brother will say, "Why were you allowed to stand in the middle of the table and sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star?" And well, I guess maybe because it was okay, or because I was the youngest.
Sure.
So from that, I had a grandmother who, she loved music, and she loved theater, and she just loved movies. She loved everything musical, and she really made it happen for me. Like, she encouraged it, and whenever I had an opportunity to do something musical, she would make sure I was involved. And so when I was 12, I mean, I started playing guitar when I was 10. I took lessons. I didn't get good at it. So I'm not a great guitarist, but I can write songs with my guitar. And I can play shows.
Right. It's pretty good.
But I don't consider myself a guitarist. I consider myself more of a singer-songwriter, and I play rhythm guitar. But I was when I was 12, I was on tour with a country band.
Really?
And my grandmother was my chaperone.
That's amazing.
It is amazing when I think back and think, wow, that was the coolest summer ever.
Can I ask who was the band and where were you touring?
It was well, here's the thing. If you're from Maine, you'll know Dick Stacy's Country Jamboree.
Yeah.
That whole
Unbelievable.
That whole outfit, or the whole team. It was several musicians and buses, and they traveled the Maritimes, Canada, and played festivals, and I was invited to go on the tour one summer. And it was so cool. And I didn't always think it was cool.
Okay. What were the cool parts and uncool parts?
The cool parts were having people ask for your autograph when you're in Canada and you're 12.
Right.
The not cool parts sometimes was that I was getting into punk and new wave, and country wasn't that cool anymore.
Sure. Right.
So if anybody ever brought it up, I would just say, don't talk about that. We're never going to talk about that. But now that, I'm so much older, I look back and think, that was pretty cool.
Yes, yeah.
That was pretty cool.
And country's very cool again, right? So.
Well, it is, and I think that, I've come pretty full circle.
Yeah.
Sometimes I joke about it, and when I write songs, I'll even say to my husband, I found my inner hillbilly. Like, I can't take it away. And so when I write songs, particularly now and even on this last CD, I just go with it. That's who I am. That's me.
Sure.
And I wanted to be a cool kid. I wanted to be a cool kid, but I'm me, and I like how it sounds. And so I have country roots background.
Yes, right. Well, it sounds like a lot of other people like it too, if you are making CDs and playing live shows. So
I guess
that's really great.
They like it.
Yeah. Can I go back with your grandmother, obviously, and your family? They were very supportive. Anyone else in your family play music?
No.
No. Wow. And
isn't that?
It's always incredible when I hear that there's one person, but but nobody else.
But my son does.
Wow.
So my son is musical, and he plays a lot of instruments that I don't. And so he sits in a lot. He can play mandolin. He can play guitar, and I think he even has a squeeze box. I don't even know sometimes. He has too many instruments.
Right.
But he's very musical, and he sings really well, and we play together sometimes. But as far as my immediate family, No, but it seems to have, and I have nephews who are in bands and are touring, and
Wow.
it seems like I'm there like as the last sibling in my family, but maybe the next generation.
Right,
I don't
right.
know. Maybe I was just like the warm up.
Yes, right. And you were the motivation for the next generation
maybe,
to,
I'm
go,
not
to
sure.
go, right?
So
Yeah.
that would explain why, my brother was perhaps sick of me standing on the table singing Twinkle Twinkle.
Yeah. And do you play anything else in addition to the guitar?
I don't.
No. Okay.
I could play a mean tambourine.
Okay. Excellent. That's
Yeah.
always good, right?
I know, yeah.
Got to keep the beat, 2 and 4.
I do,
right?
and I enjoy it. But no, I play just guitar
Yeah.
and vocals.
And you mentioned taking guitar lessons around 12. Were there any important teachers that came into your life musically?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually grew up in a really small town in Down East Maine, Lubec, which is the easternmost point.
Beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place. When you live there,
Yeah.
there's not a lot going on. And I was fortunate enough that I loved music. And so speaking of Campobello, which is near and dear to me too, I feel like I am part Canadian because I grew up on the Canadian border. But when I was 14, I started playing in a rock band. I ditched the country, started playing in a rock band. And they all lived in Canada and lived in Campobello. And all of us took lessons from the same person. So this is in Lubec. His name was Harvey Cox. Anyone from that area that played music or played guitar took lessons from him. So we all
That's great.
knew and loved him. And that really is something we all have in common because it's so small.
Sure.
So, but we had a band, and that's what we did. And thank goodness, really, that I loved music so much. It kept me out of trouble.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I think those teachers are incredibly important, like our musical angels that come along and help us, right?
They really are. I mean, at 10 years old, guitar was hard.
Yeah.
Guitar lessons were hard because, I could sing, I suppose, and I could sing along to records, and I could go to Dick Stacy's Country Jamboree and have a band that backed me up. But when I actually had to sit down and have somebody tell me you're holding it wrong, or having me play chords, I didn't like it.
Yeah. Right. It's almost too structured, not creative enough, right?
It was, and my guitar was always out of tune, and I would show up for lessons, and Harvey would say, "Is there a little kid at your house who's playing with your guitar?"
Right.
And I said, "Yes," but it was me.
Right.
But yeah, so he was influential in the guitar portion, and he was influential to lots of folks who lived there.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. So when was that moment for you, Laurie, that you're playing in bands, you're a teenager? When was that moment when you said, you know what, I want to do this professionally, and I want to sing and write songs and play guitar and go make CDs and play music for people?
It was in the band that I was in Campobello. I had so much fun with those guys. They were older than I was, and I was the singer. They were really talented, and they still are. They're still playing, and that's what's so fantastic. But the selection of music, which I love Neil Young.
Yeah, great.
So we were playing Neil Young before I'd ever heard Neil Young. And we were playing some heavy metal type things that I didn't particularly.
It wasn't your jam.
It wasn't my jam.
Yeah.
So I started thinking that I could probably write my own songs. And maybe they'd be just as good as some of those heavy rocker songs, and I would present them to the band, and that's what we started doing.
Wow,
Yeah.
incredible. Do you remember your first song that you wrote?
I don't remember enough that I could play it.
Okay.
But I remember one of my bandmates, Johnny Finney, who's still a musician and still lives in that area. I remember going to him and just saying, "Hey, I have this song," and he sat down with his guitar, and I just started singing it. It was called "After the Rain," and I should probably revisit that one day. And we had a song.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. And so we played we played a couple shows. We went to Fredericton, New Brunswick, and St. John, New Brunswick, and we were playing original stuff.
Incredible.
And it was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you own it, right?
It was mine.
It's yours.
I've learned a lot since then. I mean, it wasn't copywritten or probably anything, but the important part, when I'm looking back at it is, we played Leonard Skinner, and we played a lot of Neil Young, and but we played my song. in the mix of that. And that's when I was starting to really feel like this is bigger than maybe what I was out to do. I think I want to write my own songs. And so there became a point where they just started writing themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
Must have been thrilling to, do you remember the first time that you played your song live and what that felt like for you?
It felt really good. It felt really good. It felt normal.
Yeah.
It felt normal.
Yeah.
I remember having an interview way back when I put out one of my first CDs and saying that writing songs makes me feel human. Yeah.
There's something profound to that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It makes me feel like me. So so that's where I got the bug. Yeah.
So this is a question too. Everybody has a different story around this, because when you have that dream of, I want to do this professionally, it doesn't always happen, right? And sometimes we end up at the IGA or a therapist or whatever, right? So
Or in therapy.
Right, exactly, because we couldn't do it. So, but when was that moment for you when you got that big break and you said, I can do this, I can play music?
Well, there's two sides to this. There are lots of moments. I'll put it that way. There are lots of moments where you thought you got your big break, and then maybe you were in it for a bit, and then you get disappointed. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The music business can be a roller coaster. There are highs and lows, and it's interesting because I went to a concert last week where someone in the band said, we had this great gig one night, and then we drove 1,000 miles, and then nobody was there. And that's the way it is. And it's there's a lot of highs and lows, and you have to learn to manage that in some way, because sometimes it can be a surreal time. When I can tell you that, the moment that that hit me that, okay, like this has gone to another level, probably would be hearing it on the radio. And so,
big moment.
it's a surreal thing.
Sure.
And that happened way back when I recorded an album in Nashville, and it's the first time I'd ever heard myself on the radio. And it was, I have a song about Nashville and the experience, but what happened with the Nashville record wasn't a great experience in the end. So there were so many highs and lows to that. And so again, 1, 2, 3 records later, same thing. I'm driving down the road, I hear a song, and there's a moment where I think, wait, I know that. Who is it? Oh, it's me. Well, that's cool. Yeah. But it's the same type of thing. And then, will it stick? Will it adhere? Or do people want this? Sure. Do people like it? Right. Reviews come out, and you want people to like it, and they're not always great. Right. So wow, it's like it's ups and downs. Yes. And so but just the short answer to your question is there are so many moments where you feel, yeah, this is a pretty big deal. Yeah. I can tell you one of the biggest highlights, though, of all of my playing all these years was playing at the St. Lawrence Theater just a few weeks ago at our CD release party for Bridges. I've said it many times to lots of folks I've been talking to that it clearly was a highlight of my whole career.
Amazing. Tell us about that and how it went. What made it a highlight? It
made it a highlight because, for one, I haven't played in so long, and my band, we all just went on with life.
Sure. And
we were all there. I brought the bass player that I've worked with for years. In fact, this is hard to believe, but he actually was on that Dick Stacy's tour.
Wow, when you were 12.
And he was probably 13 or 14.
That's great.
And he played bass with his family, but his name is Walter Howland, and I've played music with him for 20 years. Yeah. And back then, we didn't play together on the same sets, or he could have been in some of my sets. He probably was. But what felt good is for us to be together, being human again. And the sound was great, and we were celebrating the record.
Sure. Right.
And look, it sounded great and it felt great, and yeah, it was a highlight. It felt like it was supposed to feel. So that was a highlight for me. So for me, that could be making it again.
Right, you bet. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's
exactly.
really about
Yes.
what your goals are.
Right. Yeah, because, you can want to fill stadiums like U2, or that's your goal or whatever, but to just make music can be fulfilling and be a goal too. It doesn't have to be all of that. Right?
And that's a good point, because I think that what I've found is, over the past few years, the goals are different. The goal was to make another record. Yeah. The goal was done. The goal was, will radio like it? Yeah. I heard it on the radio. So, there's another goal. Wow, it's getting airplay. Isn't that great? The goal was to play a great CD release party. We did. My goal now is I want to keep writing songs, but more importantly, I want to write songs that mean something, or that help somebody else, because it has to be for a reason, not just for me being able to hear it on the radio someday.
Right, you've been there, done that, and that's great, but now on to the next goal. And a more meaningful goal, it feels like.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be me playing those songs.
I wondered about that, actually. Is, do you write music for other people as well?
That's something that I'm going to explore more, but it is a goal.
Okay.
It is a goal, and that could be my next, hey, I made it, is that, I have a collection of songs, and, they're published or whatnot, so I have a catalog, and I'd like to explore, where I could go with that, because I love writing songs. I love writing music, and I love writing songs, and so, there are a lot of artists that need good songs.
Sure.
And I would find a lot of gratification in hearing someone else playing my song.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Hearing that on the radio too would be pretty cool.
Right, and getting a really great royalty check.
Right, that'd be very cool, right?
Yeah, that would be great.